In terms of reception to one of my videos, I think the most excitement I've seen from the reviewing and analysis side of my channel was from a trailer for Critics Need to Stop. Thought about canceling it, I did it with a lot of projects. You guys deserve better. You're no longer in that awkward summer 2019 phase where everything is turkey tom to you guys. So I can do this now. It is kinda tough to bring myself to do this. On the other hand, I've basically tortured you guys with clickbait all year. As funny as it is, I should chill. I've only gained like 15 subscribers since January. There will be changes though. This won't be one video, this will become a series. I don't want to dedicate multiple days to a long analysis video, then it all gets deleted. If I want to work hard on a video, I have to make all the work involve impressive editing that I could show to someone instead of being burned out after the first 5 hours. Additionally, the series was very, very chaotic as a singular script anyways. This gives me a bit more, I don't know, tension. Like, ooh, what's he gonna do next? Ooh. Speaking of which, here's how this show will be organized. I will discuss a common problem I see in internet criticism. Who it's from, who it's towards, don't even matter. I'll probably talk about multiple people per episode even. I'll primarily discuss one major issue across multiple videos though. Since this is gonna be an ongoing series, the intro will be, admittedly, pretty damn long, which is this one. The explanation won't be in the sequels. A lot of the time, it feels like the critique, I almost said critique, that's funny, I'm gonna leave this in just to be a bitch, is exempt from criticism. That has been happening a lot less this year, thanks sadly in part to cancel culture. I feel like everyone is entitled to their opinion, and in my opinion, there are a lot of bad reviews out there. This is usually regardless of the opinion they present and more of how they present it. And some of them are not reviewers per se, but sometimes people in the comments. Since I believe when people are being genuine, their opinions can be just as important no matter how big they are. I'm not exempt from a lot of criticisms I'm about to make. In fact, many of these apply to me. Hell, this video might have some inconsistencies, hypocrisies, whatever, on its own. I do not say this to exempt myself from criticism. I say this to establish that I am to be criticized. Some of the stuff I go over will be directed towards me, if anything. My opinions on these reviews and creators vary on a case-by-case basis. There are reviews I hate, reviewers I hate as people, reviewers I hate as just a reviewer, reviewers I don't hate. I made a couple of errors. There are people I like who've made bad reviews, such as Mysterious Mr. Enter. There's a mix, and I'll try to make it as clear as possible who I dislike personally, who I made a human error, etc, etc. The goal of this video was initially to be this epic finale of sorts to my criticism on this channel, but reworking the video so much to be more simple and helpful has been a bit of a bitch. If anyone wants to start reviewing on YouTube, here's some things I'd look out for.
Here's the thing. I fucking hate Trump.
With all that out of the way, let's introduce our first episode's topics. On the internet, there are fads. First 7 years of the last decade were about 2.5 year-long fads where a given fandom randomly became annoying, and then Rule 34 became disturbingly everywhere. It was terrifying. Now, it's who gets hated by the internet. Cancelled, lol cow, it's never good. On my channel, I do defend people who most people hate, and sometimes I defend people who I hate. I've defended Mr. Enter and QuintonReviews about as many times as I've shat on them at this point to put in perspective. I get the impression that people think that just because you're criticizing something a lot of people hate, that suddenly means you don't have to explain or justify your critiques. That's the issue. All of these easy targets, people just get lazy and sloppy with them, and I do get lazy and sloppy with my videos, especially recently, and I should stop that. I should be focusing more on hard-working videos opposed to spamming like 3 videos a week that are just garbage. Exhibit A, the Nostalgia Critic. A lot of people are going after the Nostalgia Critic. In fact, there's a lot of videos that almost have the exact same format of talking about To Boldly Flee, talking about some of the controversy at the beginning, talking about another problem in the middle, but finishing up with about 45 to an hour and 20 minutes of To Boldly Flee or so. In terms of easy targets, Nostalgia Critic has become a very annoying vicious cycle. People say they used to be a fan, say he's gotten worse, briefly talk about how his company committing several crimes against humanity is bad, then say he was never good, and that they've become a better person / creator, and then proceed to do the exact same thing as the Nostalgia Critic. We'll discuss Quinton talking about To Boldly Flee today. One of his main points in the first half hour of his video, which was actually the only review part of his video, and an hour and a half long video, it was that he was self-aware that something being bad doesn't make it good. And if you're parroting something while pointing out that it's bad, that doesn't make it good. He also says that part of the reason he feels he's improved is that he saw what Doug did and proceeded to do the opposite. Remaining hour of his video is Quinton parroting To Boldly Flee with the same problems. It's one thing to make a meta movie by critics that you're calling bad within the movie. It's another level to critique that movie. Say a parody doesn't solve your problems and then do it immediately within the same video. How do you do that? How? Just, what? How? I feel like this is due to easy targets because Quinton got sloppy and didn't care much because he figured most people would hate the Nostalgia Critic by this point, and it makes sense why. He's not the best person, sadly, because he is nostalgic. Wah. I feel like in order to improve this video, Quinton should not have pointed out the problems about a meta parody shooting itself in the foot. The premise of the video is admittedly interesting, first quarter being a review, but the second part is a parody of what he's talking about, which is like 10 layers of meta because he's reviewing and parodying a reviewer's parody of themselves. This just kind of makes the meta narrative idea fall on its face. It also, like, why would you critique that if you're just gonna do it? On a similar note, there was a giant, over an hour-long video released a while back that was a collaboration of a bunch of people critiquing Mr. Enter's Nikorama. I was gonna go over some of the videos there in just one video, talking about the whole thing, but it's just as mixed as the Nikorama itself. For example, Hats Off Media review of the TMNT video was really good. Perhaps I'm biased because that was in the top 5 worst reviews of 2019 in my opinion, and I think it ranks higher than PK Russell's Has Been Hotel and Nostalgia Critic's The Wall, ignoring the context surrounding those videos. Not to quote the scum of Twitter, but yikes. Additionally, it was well researched. Hats Off Media himself is very pleasant, and hey, when he acted smug or sarcastic, it didn't come across as hypocritical. I felt those roasts were earned. They worked pretty well. On the other hand, Veridis Joe's review of Mr. Enter's Mighty Bee review is, wow, it's not good, like at all. And the big reason is that I think he just assumed that since it was an easy target, it seemed like he didn't need to try to explain and justify his points much at all. He even admits to it being a filler video. I want to say I can't be too harsh on filler videos because you know how much I make them and how trash my channel is becoming. But this isn't an intentionally terrible clickbait meme. This is a genuine analysis. If it was by a teenager who got drunk for the first time in their life. More importantly, the intent of this video is kind of malicious. Compared to his other video, his tone's more assholey than usual, and he doesn't have the logical consistency to back up his malicious tone. I'd say this is not the worst video of the Nikorama collaborative response, to be fair. I think Benzie Johnson's video response to Mr. Enter, but was, you know, nothing but emotionally charged bias and the last 5 minutes repeating the same points in an increasingly verbose mannerism. I might try to fit that in the series, but on to Veridis Joe.
And then I realized better videos existed and watched said videos instead.
Oh, great! Talking about how great the Mars Reviews video was when he calls Mr. Enter a Rebel Taxi ripoff because Mr. Enter reviewed the same thing as Rebel Taxi, despite Rebel Taxi reviewing stuff that Enter got to first, and bringing up old drama, and being the man who probably caused the cartoon community to be completely irredeemable because he focused so much on individual YouTubers opposed to the problems as a whole, which were the main issues in sucking Rebel Taxi's cock and hearting a giant lie. Seriously, he could have made the cartoon community self-aware and focus on, hey, maybe screeching about Teen Titans Go for like 10 fucking years is a bad idea. Wowee. But no, they all focused on Mr. Enter bad, and he acted like he was the source of it when, if anything, the requests badgering him about it were more likely to cause it. In fact, he still calls it a bad show, but also he says it's like 4 out of 10.
Really not good, but that makes it real easy for me to rip it a new one.
I genuinely wish that were true. It would have been easy. You made it seem very hard, though, Mr. Joe.
Bunch of dumb funny bullshit and Bessie annoying the fuck out of everyone in the vicinity, but it's played up for laughs. Enter, though, on the other hand, sees it as the literal devil incarnate, and the length he goes to reach the audience to that conclusion with him is like it's like the funniest shit ever. This is probably my best laugh out of the week. What's really funny first is the way that he pitches the idea of the show to his audience is by comparing it to his personal worst episodes of SpongeBob, where he acts as if SpongeBob is an absolute demon.
Is he saying that Enter is literally calling SpongeBob a demon or not? Doesn't matter. What does matter is that Veridis Joe just said that Mr. Enter assumed the audience reached a conclusion about Bessie being Satan as well. I don't think he's literal.
You're not showing clips. I saw the video. Even though Enter has bad communication skills with regards to delivery of his jokes, that sounds about as obviously a joke as possible, so this sounds out of context.
The length he goes to reach the audience to that conclusion.
The grammar of that's weird, so it's a little tough to understand what he's trying to say. If he's trying to say Enter's trying to convince his audience of what?
Back to the main point, whatever demon he accidentally summoned into his living room doesn't matter. The child is dead by this point. What does matter is that he's talking about this not only like the audience came to this conclusion, but also as if the audience knows what he's talking about. He's like, yo, so this guy is calling bad episodes of SpongeBob and the Mighty Bee the Goat Man that keeps chanting Latin that now resides in my living room. Isn't that stupid? Like, I feel like for something this weird, you should ease him in a bit more. I've seen the original review and some of Mr. Enter's SpongeBob reviews, and this is already confusing me because I don't think he's this literal. I think this is called hyperbole.
And he also talks about how anyone not willing to go along with SpongeBob's selfish desires are punished egregiously. My nigga, it's SpongeBob.
He doesn't mean it literally, he just means that whenever a dumb character does something that annoys someone else, annoyed character gets punished for being annoyed. In terms of punishment, it's not like literal Satanism or something. It's more like just the plot.
148, 158. This also confused me at first. He's talking about what Mr. Enter is saying way too literally. Veridis Joe is trying really hard to be daft and dumb he's trying to be dumb so that he can successfully interpret Enter as saying Mr. SpongeBob is a demon who punishes thoughts who do not follow his cult. It's a joke. It's obviously a joke. Mr. Enter usually mentions punishment as a way to describe negative things that happen to characters. If Mr. Joe isn't interpreting it that way, why is he expecting this to be a better review than Mr. Enter's? If he doesn't take it too literal, it's worse because it should be obvious. Like, he obviously means narratively that the universe punishes characters who are in the right opposed to those in the wrong. That's what he means, narratively speaking. Like, even if you don't accept that's a joke excuse, how about accept this excuse? You're fucking wrong. He's not literal. Oh my god. It's not a genuine point he's making by hyperbolically calling a little girl a demon. Hyperbole is bad only if people believe it, okay?
But he uses this comparison to say that this exaggerated, unbearable, hyperbolic description of those episodes is what every episode of The Mighty B is like. He also calls it less original compared to some Ed, and Eddie Boy Scout joke. I know he probably thought that was funny, but I don't know how far niggas are supposed to go with Girl Scouts. It's kind of a straightforward thing, you know, get all the badges. So that joke wasn't really necessary. Like, I get it, it's a reference to another cartoon, you do cartoons, I get it, but it's not funny. Script could have been better without it, because he brings it up as some sort of actual comparison and criticism later, which is stupid.
It's not funny to you. Okay, got it. That was a waste of our fucking time. Wait. Script could have been better without it. You spent an extra 30 seconds explaining a joke after confusing jokes for the whole video, and you're saying it's not funny twice.
Get it, but it's not funny. Script could have been better without it. I know he probably thought that was funny, but I don't know how far niggas are supposed to go with Girl Scouts.
Don't explain why it's not funny. Within 30 seconds, you don't explain the joke, and you see he needs better scripting. This is so dumb. This is, it's kind of, I don't like the term lazy. It is something that is critical of the production but says nothing about the end product. But the end product misses so many points. It's sloppy, and lazy sounds like a good adjective right now. And I've learned firsthand, being lazy and sloppy with criticism makes you look like a douchebag. Just ask Mr. Enter's Rise of the TMNT review.
He goes as far as to say that this show is the worst Nicktoon of the 2000s, no competition, as if this bland ass shit was better by comparison. I mean, I understand being hyperbolic is useful when reviewing, but it only works well when you literally aren't hyperbolic for like the full duration of your video.
On one hand, I do agree that it gets irritating when Enter just calls everything the worst of blah. I can't stand it when reviewers just have such recency bias, so the most recent thing they see, it's the worst. On the other hand, you didn't really say why his opinion is wrong, you just said it was. That's a bold claim.
Basically, this video was just another excuse from Nostalgia's hate boner for SpongeBob, and it kinda gets annoying. Is it because she also has a tooth gap, Mr. Enter? I too had a tooth gap when I was 9, Mr. Enter. Does she give you SpongeBob PTSD? Because it seems like it.
Outside of Ink Lemonade, which was heavily requested, he hasn't been negative towards SpongeBob since like 2016 with this Someone's in the Kitchen with Sandy review. Oh god, I wish I could get away with making 5-word-long sentence points like Veridis Joe and get that many subscribers, but that would mean my points are fucking ass, so I can't do that. I actually need to elaborate so I don't look like an uninformed goon who sounds like he genuinely believes in what Mars Review's abominable video says 3 years later, when it was marginally dated even at the time, and now is almost half a decade dated. It's more than half a decade dated. What am I talking about? It's been like 6 years, at least.
He also says that the show seems to have been designed to specifically piss him off, which is funny considering he's really pissy at literally almost everything. He picks at the theme song, which is undeniably a hood classic. He says each individual parts of the song are good on their own, but together are slapped together and annoying and awful, and this is a bunch of bullshit. You're not Anthony Fantano. It sounds fine. And then he goes on to say the same thing about the show itself, which really again doesn't make any sense at all. And because he's having trouble with this critique, he goes straight for the animation, and he starts it by talking about just how good animation in general as a whole is by using hyperbolic rhetoric.
Veridis Joe, greatest analysis of all time. Instead of thinking or analyzing or pronouncing words correctly, he tries really hard to make sure nothing can be thought of. He mentioned Mr. Enter being hyperbolic for his entire series being a bad thing, which I think Enter takes his hyperbole too far, and I can't take him seriously when he calls this the worst thing ever every fucking video, like I Hate Everything does. But this entire video is so passive, I'm learning nothing. Veridis might want to try some intellectual refutation, or I don't know, in non-failing terms, explaining. I'm happy he explained it this much at least, instead of you who just said no, he's wrong and didn't explain it like at all, or didn't even imply it with a funny joke like you just said he's wrong. This is lazy. You think that just because Mr. Enter's an easy target that you can just half-ass this and not justify a single fucking point?
Only to say, what in God's name is wrong with the animation of this show? I have your answer. Nothing. It's nothing spectacular, but it's fun to look at sometimes. It's not a dumpster fire that you have to ask in God's name why it exists. It's hyperbolic about Bessie's drive to earn all her badges in her one-track mind, and compares her wacky antics to, I shit you not, sinking the Titanic, kidnapping people,
jumping the shark, coming back, shooting it in the balls, raping it, eating its flesh, consuming its soul, mounting its head on the wall,
and being a literal serial killer.
And then doing the same thing to 12 more fucking sharks just to be safe!
Why? Because she quote-unquote lacks a moral compass. It's just literally all hyperbole. And it makes him sound more like the crazy typical cartoon guy than an actual reviewer, which really ain't too far off from what he actually is.
I hope it's clear that I don't think Mr. Enter's always a great reviewer, but a lot of your criticisms can't be considered a review either. You are asserting your opinion and not backing them up. I can't really call that a review, that's just stating the opinion. A little bit of hyperbole doesn't mean you're a bad reviewer automatically. Jokes do exist, and I honestly miss the older form of YouTubers who actually joked and weren't just pretentious analysis videos. And for a guy gatekeeping the animation process so much, you sure like to put animation down as a whole by using it's a cartoon as an excuse for so many things.
Fucking cartoon, dog. She's a 9-year-old. It's because it's a cartoon.
Behold, the only footage of Mr. Enter Veridis Joe actually shows all episode. And given that it sounded like he was trying to do things by memory, I'm not sure if he was. But the whole time he sounded confused and sounded like he was talking about things out of context. And you don't have to use footage from who you're responding to. If you're like Hats Off Media, you can respond to like most of the review but sound at least confident and you know what you're quoting. You notice with Veridis' clips that a lot of his quotes were just, he had a question in his voice all the time, but he wasn't even specifically referring to anything. He's talking about different characters being compared to literal demons, and obviously the tone of voice would have been important for those clips. And like he says things vaguely, like just more hyperbolic rhetoric, and we didn't actually see any evidence for the first time to ensure the audience trust that yes, he's telling the truth, that hey guys, you know the stuff I've already showed you is hyperbolic rhetoric. You can trust me in just dismissing the next clips as such.
Happen.
Maybe it's because it's a cartoon, and that's the
And now you know what it feels like trying to decipher Veridis Joe's points from what he's talking about with Mr. Enter when I can't hear him. Either sound confident when discussing point by points, don't sound confident, but at least have clips to back you up. Like, I sadly probably don't sound confident. Or, this wasn't by memory, this is not good. Oh no, that is not good.
Moral of the story, I get that SpongeBob fell off. Get over it like we all did. We get that you don't have much to say about a show like this, which is why videos like this are much better done in long bulk form. Excitable, high energy shows clearly aren't meant for everyone, but that doesn't mean it's a notorious dumpster fire like you say it is. And finally, watch my video on annoying characters in animation. It's certainly more fun than any Enter video. Unless you came to like laugh at them like we did. Joey out.
Subscribe and share this video and hit the bell icon. Why do I say this? Because apparently YouTubers who are successful think very little of the intelligence of their audience. So fuck it. Have you seen the comment sections? My videos are already horrible, so contribute if you'd like and just say some more terrible shit that traumatizes me down below. feel like both of these videos I discussed today demonstrate the issue where people go after easy targets. Movie critics do the same thing with movies like DC movies, Twilight, Transformers, Star Wars trilogy, except there people just kind of make like 3+ hour long videos. They're the same as other people's 3+ hour long videos. And people say The Force Awakens was a fucking ripoff. Like, come on, guys. Feel like if all the points are good enough, just don't make another video. I know you want those views. They just think that just because everyone else criticizes something, they don't need to care as much, and thus they get sloppy. If anything, Ralph, the movie maker, proved this popular opinion bias to be the case even more than anyone else. Ralph released a flawed review of 2019's Joker, which got ratioed. It was negative towards a movie that many were positive for, and basically every negative review got dislike bombed. So even if Ralph's review was good, which it wasn't, it wasn't, guys, it would have been ratioed. Meanwhile, many would say his Parasite review is worse. He agreed with the popular opinion that it was good, but he didn't review it. He just described it, said it was good, didn't really make any jokes, just kind of that made something sound like he liked it, but he didn't explain why. Like, honestly, comparing reviews, I'd rather have a review with flaws and errors that still attempts to explain the reviewer's opinion opposed to a review with a few errors. It doesn't offer any justification or argument for an opinion. People know this, but YouTube has always been unfair to unpopular opinions and popular ones. You can usually just botch up a review of a popular opinion, but it can be impossible to stop an unfair ratio if your opinion on a piece of media is unpopular enough. I've made some videos that were quite good with an unpopular opinion ratioed. Made some bad, half-ass garbage on videos with, I guess, a popular opinion now. Like, within the last week, Relax Alex is like 17-6 now. And that's like controversial, but that video itself was bad. It was a mess. Even if my points are good, that video's not. It was pretty half-assed, but thanks for the 600 views. So, what do you guys think? Objective? Objective, yeah, objective. Hell yeah, objective. Objective! Bleh! See you next time on another Critics Need to Stop.